the 1 dinar from my own pocket. Ihsan. When he was doing this, a woman comes in the face of this muhsin, gentleman, and she says, murderer! Shouting at him, cursing him, murderer! You killed my father! My husband is your prisoner. You captured him in the Battle of Hattin, and you're asking me to pay 1 dinar. Murderer! And Muslims were furious. Furious, how dare you? They loved Salahudeen. How dare you say that? And Salahudeen said, leave her alone. Leave her alone. And then he said, get me the prisoners. Get me the prisoners of the Battle of Hattin. Where is your husband? As for your husband, he is free for your sake. As for your 1 dinar, I'm paying it from my pocket. As for your father, he died in an unjust battle that he started. The woman cried. The woman cried. Ihsan, she's not used to this. She cried. And you know what she said? Sir, I'm sorry. May God curse the ones that told us lies about you and the Muslims. I'm sorry. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه حميم. Allah says, repel, push back ugliness with ihsan, with beauty. When you do that, your enemy will become your best friend. Repelling ugliness with ihsan. And Salahudeen, this magnanimous warrior and follower of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he looks and he sees some women crying. And he asks, he's so gentle, he starts crying. He cries because the women, why are they crying? And they say, those are the widows of the warriors that fought you in the Battle of Hattin. And Salahudeen cries. And he says, any woman that her husband died fighting Salahudeen is exempt. Any woman her husband died fighting Salahudeen comes to me, I'm going to give her gifts. And he calls the prisoners. Any soldier who has a young kid is free to go. And he starts releasing people. And people started going out of the city amazed at the ihsan of Salahudeen, the patriarch of Jerusalem. When he saw that, he took the wealth, not his personal wealth, he took the wealth of the church, piled it, and he's going out. Muslim scholars with Salahudeen, like Ahmad al-Asfahani and others, were so upset. What kind of a religious person is that? But he goes with, this is the wealth of the church, and he does not pay for the poor people. What kind of a religious figure is? They were so upset. They told Salahudeen, confiscate this wealth. It is not his wealth, it is the wealth of the church. Confiscate it. The response of Salahudeen al Ayubi, no. Let it be known that Muslims never betray their word. We promise them that they're free to go. Let him go. They will remember that for us. And the man goes outside. A woman comes to Salahudeen. Who is she? The wife of Arnat. The wife of Riyal, the one that wanted to do what he did. Why? Arnat's son. He's your prisoner. Can you free him? He said, yes, وَلَهُ الْأَمَانِ. Yes, and he's safe. Let him go. And the wife of King Guy comes to Salahudeen. My husband, the king is your prisoner. Can you release him? And he says, yes. The king, without ransom, only one thing. If he promises not to fight against me alone. And Salahudeen releases everyone. And the day comes when Salahudeen now is about to enter the city of Jerusalem. This muhsin, and on the night, a Friday night, the 27th of Rajab, a night that Muslims estimate that to be the night of Isra and Mi'raj, Salahudeen al Ayubi enters Jerusalem the same night that the Prophet ﷺ is estimated to have went in an Isra and Mi'raj. And هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان? Is the reward of being a muhsin less than ihsan from Allah? If I show ihsan to people, Allah in turn shows ihsan to me. And Salahudeen enters with his army, head down, in peace. Everyone is safe to the city of Jerusalem. It is said all what he wanted to do is visit the holy sites. He would pray and cry, pray and cry, and pray. And then the Muslims yearn for the Aqsa Mosque. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being with the soldiers of Salahudeen? And there was no adhan in the Aqsa Mosque for 8 years. Being the first one to, and they crushed their hearts towards the Aqsa Mosque, and they were shocked. They were shocked. The Aqsa Mosque has been turned into a big toilet. The Crusaders defiled it. A part of it was a stable. The other part was a toilet. They looked to the Dome of the Rock, And what happened to it? Masjid Umar, you know Masjid Umar ibn Khattab, the Masjid of tolerance. When Umar ibn Khattab went to Jerusalem and they offered him to pray inside the Kanisa of Al-Qiyam, and he said what? No, because Muslims will take it, let me pray outside. And Muslims built up the Masjid of Umar. They destroyed it. And Muslims were so upset. They went to Salahudeen al Ayubi and they said, destroy their church. Look what they did. Destroy their church. And Salahudeen al Ayubi's response, أقرها عمر وأهدمها أنا. Umar ibn al-Khattab left it alone. And you want me to destroy it? Never. The teacher of Salahudeen al Ayubi is Umar ibn al-Khattab. The teacher of Umar ibn al-Khattab is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The way Salahudeen al Ayubi enters the city of Jerusalem is the same way Umar ibn al-Khattab enters the city of Jerusalem. The way Umar ibn al-Khattab entered the city of Jerusalem is the same way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Mecca. This is our lineage. This is our role model. This is what we're about. Ihsan. We are the followers of Muslims. We are a Muhsin nation. We follow Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We are supposed to be the source of beauty. If we are not the source of beauty, who will be? When we fail to be such kind of people, do not then complain that people are harsh to us. What do we expect? And what was the focus of Salahudeen al Ayubi? It is written there. They wrote it. The Muslims loved Salahudeen and they wrote inside the Dome of the Rock, ordered the أمر بترميم هذا المحراب المقدس وعمارة المسجد الأقصى الذي هو على التقوى صلاح الدنيا والدين. عندما فتحه الله على يديه وهو يسأل الله شكر هذه النعمة وإجزال حظه من المغفرة والرحمة. Ordered the renewal of this holy site and the re-establishment of the Aqsa Mosque, the one who's on taqwa, Salah al-Dunya wa Deen, when Allah granted him to open it. Not when he opened it, when Allah gave him the favor to open it on his own hands. And he asks, he pleads of Allah to make his share of forgiveness and rahmah vast. The reason Salah al-Din was able to do that, because he was witnessing the favor of Allah on him. It is said all what he was reciting, the verse, رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرْ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِ. Oh Allah, grant me the ability to thank the favor you bestowed on me. He was able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was not veiled by the deeds and the actions of the Crusaders. The reason he was able to be a Muhsin, because he saw the ihsan of Allah to him. And Salah al-Din enters, and they wanted to imagine, enters the Aqsa Mosque. Those who were fighting yesterday are janitors, and Allah gives them the honor of being the ones that are scrubbing the Aqsa Mosque from inside, cleaning it with rose water. And the first khutbah in the Aqsa Mosque. And we have the script of it. I will not say it here. What a wonderful khutbah. And those of you who can read Arabic, I can send it to you. Can you imagine the first khutbah? Can you imagine being with Salah al-Din sitting in the Aqsa Mosque, hearing the first khutbah in the Aqsa Mosque? And subhan, such an ihsan, such a muhsin. But I tell you this, the people that he released, the people that he showed good to, you know what they did? Guess what they did? He told them, I'm letting you go, you're free, don't fight against me again. You know what they did? They betrayed him again. Those that were released by Salah al-Din, thousands of them, he even offered them, if you want to go back to Europe, he hosted them, he offered them, guards to guard them all the way to the city of Alexandria, hotels to stay in, ships to take them back to Europe, if they want. The same people that he freed, betrayed. And many of us think that the victories of Salah al-Din is the Battle of Hattin, is the opening of Jerusalem, and I tell you what happened next is by far greater. I don't have time for it, I have to skip it. But I just mentioned one thing. Those who he freed, betrayed. And they formed an army. And they started attacking the city of Hakka and the entire Europe. When they heard that the city of Jerusalem fell, what do you think happened? 22 different nations sent armies against Salah al-Din, led by the kings of Europe. King Richard the Lionheart of Britain, King Philip Augustus, all their kings. It is said Frederick Barbarossa of Germany, 200,000 troops. And they told Salahudeen, Muslims were scared. When they saw this, all the Muslims that praised him, they said, oh my God, 22 different nations, they're not only going to take Jerusalem, the entire area is going to fall into their hand. And whoa, what will happen? And Salahudeen was left alone. They left him alone. Muslims, they were scared. They just backed up. And Salahudeen faced an impossible encounter. An army of 30,000, 60,000 against the unified army of Europe. Hundreds of thousands. And they seized the city of Akka. And Salahudeen starts fighting this fight of Akka. I don't have time for it. What lessons can you get from that? 2 years. A battle that took 2 years. Between Salahudeen al Ayubi. And it is said Muslims would defeat the Crusaders. And they would go back. And next day they would say, we see new Crusaders. What happened? During the night, ships came. We killed 10,000 yesterday. Today there is more 20,000 came. And the numbers kept swelling. And even the scholars said, our arrows finish before they finish. We don't know what to do. And scholars were kind of fearful. And they would say, we would look at the face of Salahudeen with yaqeen, with assurance, with certitude. And it would bring faith in our heart. And Salahudeen didn't give up. 2 years, a long battle in the Battle of Akka. And his commanders told him the situation is hopeless. Akka is going to fall. There's only 3,000 people inside. We can't do anything. And the forces around them is tremendous. And we can't even supply them. And they've been fighting for 2 years. And the situation was miserable. Salahudeen himself was sick. It was a miserable situation. And what happened, what I want to quote for you. Salahudeen refuses. And the commanders in the city of Akka, those chivalrous warriors, they said to Salahudeen, allow us to make a treaty. Allow us to make some treaty with the Crusaders. May they leave us alone. And Salahudeen refuses. No treaties. And next day, Salahudeen wakes up and he finds the Crusader flag on top of the city of Akka. And it said Salahudeen was like a mother that lost a child, crying after 2 years. What happened? The Muslims inside the city of Akka made a treaty with Richard. And they told him, we will deliver the city. Remember, we were nice to you. We will deliver the city for you. Would you allow us to go out? And he said, yes, deliver the city and you're free. And guess what happened? The moment they delivered the city, he betrays and he captures all of them. And he sends to Salahudeen, you want your 3,000 men and their children and their women? You have to pay me now. You have to pay me 100,000 dinars. And Salahudeen said, but how can I trust you? How? I want some guarantee that if I pay you the money. And he said, the religious people among you, give me your word that if I give you 100,000 dinars, you're going to release the prisoners. And the response came from religious people, we cannot trust our people. We cannot trust them. And Salahudeen starts negotiating. And the next day, the Crusaders get those 3,000 people in a hill. And they order the knights to massacre all of them. And Salahudeen was shocked. Shocked. In front of him. He couldn't, he tried to save them, he couldn't, and he was shocked, agony. And in this situation around Akka, a woman comes to the camp of Salahudeen. A woman from the Franks, crying. And Salahudeen stops the army. Stop. Why is she crying? He cares about one woman from the Franks. Why is she crying? And they said, she's asking for you. And he said, yes, here is me. Why? What's going on? And she said, yesterday, I was in our camp. Some men from the Muslims, they sneaked in, some thieves it seems, and they snatched my baby girl, and they took her away. I went to our kings, to Richard, and I said, help me. And they told me, we can do nothing to help you. And they told me, but go to the Sultan of the Muslims. He is generous. He will help you. Salahudeen, upon hearing this, he orders the army to stop. He orders his men, go, take the description of her baby. Probably they're trying to sell her somewhere. Go, find it. An hour later, the same knights of Salahudeen, the warriors, return with a baby on their shoulder. The woman sees that. She starts crying, hugging the baby, crying, pointing to Salahudeen, pointing to the heavens, making dua for Salahudeen. This is Ihsan. This is our legacy. This is our role models. This is jihad. This word that today, what have we done? What have we done? Killing women and children in the name of Islam? It's what about what happened. He changed people. Richard himself, he sent a letter, stating the following: give you Sultan the greetings from me. By God, he's great. By God, he's great. He is the greatest king, the greatest Sultan on the face of earth. He changed people. He changed his enemies. And he continued to fight them. They could not, those troops with their numbers, they could not take the city of Jerusalem. And they don't have time. What Salahudeen did was magnificent against them. His ability to hold to rahmah, to compassion. And one lesson from Salahudeen I want to leave you with. What happened in the last moments of his life? When it was about, he was about to die. Let me finish it with that and reflect on it. To go to my main second part of the lecture, inshallah, if we have time. His advice even. On his deathbed, when he was about to die, he calls his son to give him an advice. And I imagine that his advice would be what? Defend the city of Jerusalem. This man spent 23 years of his life, 17 years on the horseback. He took 80 forts and cities from the Crusaders. More than 200,000 Crusaders died in the battles he fought. He changed the map. He did wonderful things. He fought day and night around the city of Akka. I told you, around the city of Akka. Situations weren't easy. And look, he was a Muhsin. He was really a Muhsin. Some of the things that we do not know of Salahudeen around the city of Akka. He was sick one day because of the corpse. People are dying and doctors order him, go away, he has to rest. And he couldn't even stand. He was on his side, sick. Can you imagine being sick, fighting day and night in mud and hot weather and cold weather for 2 years in a tent, and the situation in it, and Muslims are being sieged and difficult things. And he tells one of his servants, can you get me some water, please? And his servant rushes to get water from the Sultan, Salahudeen, and it said he got boiling hot water, very hot water. And he enters, and what happened? He trips. And he spills the water on Salahudeen. Can you imagine if I had a bad day at work, and I go back home, and my son spills water on my laptop? What happens? I don't need to continue, right? Salahudeen is the Sultan, and you spill water on him. All what he said is, can you make it colder, please? And the man goes, ice cold water. He returns, and the Sultan is sick, and he trips again. And he spills the water on Salahudeen again. And the man was terrified. Now this is the second time. Well, this is the Sultan. He can chop my head off, right? And he was terrified. And Salahudeen saw that. And you know what he did? He looked to the man and he smiled. And he said, if you want to kill me, let me know and do it quickly, please. That's Ihsan. Ihsan. Making him smile in the face of his sleep. Muhsin, on his deathbed, the advice given to him by his son. His son comes and he gives him his farewell advice. And he says, Awseek, I command you, I give you, this is my will. Awseek, bitaqwa Allah Azza wa Jal. Of taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I command you with what Allah commanded you. I forbid you from what Allah forbade you. And then he tells him this sentence that, oh, subhanallah. And I command you to guard. And they said, yes, to guard the city of Jerusalem. And you know what he said? I command you to guard the hearts of Muslims. Did you ever hear about a ruler, a president that says, my program is, I'm going to protect your heart? That was the advice of Salahudeen. That, the way he lived, the way he died, and I can go on, but here's my point. Salahudeen al Ayubi, he was not what we think. So many people think a superhero, and that's what we want. Where is Salahudeen now? If he was to show up, our problems will be over. Wrong. If he shows up today, nothing will happen. Salahudeen was not alone. When you study him, you find that Salahudeen was a representative of an entire generation. The men around Salahudeen were of the same caliber. It is an entire generation that did this. Salahudeen was nothing more than a representative of a generation raised by scholars. His commander, I told you about Hussein al-Din Lolo, the commander of the fleet. One thing Hussein al-Din Lolo did when it was time of difficulty, droughts, and people were in difficult times, economical crisis. Salahudeen Lolo every day donated 10,000 loaves of bread. 10,000. Al-Qadi al-Fadil, when he saw what's happening around the city of Akka, he got the best piece of land he has and he offered it for the sake of Allah. And he said, all the income coming from this land is to feed Muslim prisoners. Women in the time of Salahudeen al Ayubi. We need sisters. The wife of Salahudeen, the sister of Salahudeen. You know what they did? The sister of Salahudeen built 2 schools with facilities to support them. The wife of Salahudeen studied pharmacology, pharmacy, and she built the biggest pharmacy in the region. She used to make medicine with her own hands, go night time, give it to poor people. It is said about the generation of this time, people would be on the streets trying to give charity. And if they try to give charity to someone and he refuses, they would cry. Why? They would say, if Allah knew that I'm a good person, He would have accepted. The generation raised by scholars. Who were the scholars of that time? What did they teach? And you go and you study it. And names start coming up. Names like Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. Names like Sheikh Ahmed al-Rifa'i. Names like Ibn al-Jawzi, who was living in Baghdad at this time. Names like Imam al-Ghazali. Names like Salahudeen was a student of those scholars. Many of us do not know. Salahudeen was a student of the greatest hadith scholar of the time, Al-Hafidh al-Asakir. Salahudeen was one of his students, raised by scholars. Scholars. And I want, again, relating this to what I'm saying. What was scholars teaching? Look, very simple. This deen of ours, you know the hadith of Jibreel. When Jibreel came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How long do I have?
All night?
No, all night. I need some feedback. I've been speaking for so long. Read now. 15 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know what it was. Also already planned. Finish now? So maybe I can just summarize it with some lessons. SubhanAllah, the second part I wanted to talk about, which I didn't read, is how can I be a Muslim? How can I be that way? This is what interested me. When I read about Salahudeen, it wasn't the military victories. It's his character. How can he be this way? How can he be so generous? When Salahudeen died, and they went to bury him, they found he didn't have enough money for his own funeral. Why? You know why? All his money was given in charity. In the Battle of Akka, he donated 12,000 horses for the sake of Allah. It is said Salahudeen never paid zakah. What never paid zakah? What does that mean? You know what it means? What does it take for me not to pay zakah? It's not that I'm a bad Muslim. It means to pay zakah, I have some money above al-nisab, right? He never, all the Sultan of Sham and Egypt, all his money was given. All the money he collected in the city of Jerusalem, this 1 dinar, you know what he did? Before he